Hi everybody, Aaron Cowan, Sage Dynamics. In this questions answered video, the question was, what muzzle device do you use on your AR rifle? My muzzle device of choice is the Dead Air flash hider. We're just talking about strictly a 2-barrel muzzle device. Reason being, it's a flash hider and it doesn't induce any undue concussion. Thing about muzzle devices is they're there to do two things, either remove flash or keep the muzzle flat. Some of them do both. Some devices do one better than others. Some devices only do one thing. The Dead Air flash hider, in my experience, significantly reduces the muzzle flash, which is good for me, especially at night or in low light situations. But it also doesn't create the sideward concussive blast that some of your brakes and some of your muzzle devices can create, comps such that. So if you're working indoors, such as a shoot house or something like that, I don't have that concussive force being directed towards the wall and then coming right back at me, which even with ear pro on can be very, very aggravating. Now, choosing a muzzle device is a very personal option, but sometimes I feel like people see someone shooting a gun and they see them shooting it really, really flat and they immediately look to what's on the muzzle versus asking them, hey, what's your recoil control technique? Because this platform, in many of the calibers it's available in, but most commonly the 223, 5.56, does not produce a significant amount of muzzle rise to really need taming over proper recoil control techniques. So if you're doing the cliche your part, the muzzle device shouldn't be a huge issue as far as recoil control, or I should say taming that muzzle rise is concerned. The only exception to that for me, I'm going to stick with mostly flash hiders except for battle comps. I found that battle comps are pretty tame, comparatively speaking, indoors. But my go-to muzzle device, if I had to choose one, is going to be the Dead Air. Of course, it goes without saying that if I have my way, which I usually do, this is my preferred muzzle device because now I don't have nearly as many things to worry about. What is your rifle for? If your rifle's for 3-gun, then a breaker comp is probably going to be a good idea because you're looking to ink out those 10s and .10s and .20s and increase your splits, and it's competition based. But for a truck gun or for home defense, suppressors are the way to go. If your state does not allow them or you just haven't gotten around to getting one, then a flash hider is going to be advantageous. And on top of a flash hider, you should probably look into some very high quality electronic ear pros such as the Swordens. These are my go-to ear pro. I run them just like this. I also run them on my helmet. Home defense rifles, the likelihood of needing one, it's situationally dependent. It's great to have it staged in the bedroom if your lifestyle permits that, if you don't have to worry about small kids, or if it's locked up and immediately accessible, or you may have, the ability and the budget to have multiple rifles throughout the house if your situation warrants that. But don't count on it being the gun that you're going to be able to reach for. And I know this video is about muzzle devices, but I feel like I should bring that up every chance I get because I see too many people that their immediate go-to idea is the rifle, and they're going to have electronic ear pro, they're going to have a suppressor, and in their mind it's staged in the bedroom, and that's great, but what if it's 10:30 in the morning or 4 in the afternoon? The rifle may not be accessible at that point, so you got to be prepared for that as well. And I know, of course, like I said, it doesn't really factor into a muzzle selection device video, but I felt like I should mention it. And of course, for those of you that want the best of all worlds, the Dead Air device also takes the pyro, which basically turns it into a compensator. So that's an option for you as well. It looks pretty cool if you're into the aesthetics, and it actually really does create gigantic fireballs if you're into those photos as well. As far as recoil goes, my experience with it doesn't tame the recoil in a significant way, and when I say recoil, I mean muzzle rise. Because the Dead Air flash hider already does a really good job of doing that. And I'm sure some of you are like, this is just a Dead Air commercial. And what I'm saying is the question was, what muzzle device do I use? So I'm answering it. And the Dead Air gives me all the options I want. Now, being completely honest, I don't use the pyro too much because I usually have a can on this gun, or just running the flash hider. Especially with my longer guns like 14.5 and 16-inch, the Dead Air flash hider, you put a can on a gun that long, it can be kind of cumbersome. Just for general purposes, it's no big deal to throw on some ear pro and run the flash hider. But even using the flash hider in close quarters such as shoot houses, I recently did a shoot house class down in Florida, ran guns unsuppressed. The guys that ran comps and brakes, they got beat on a little bit, especially in those confined spaces such as hallways and such. So it's definitely something you need to take into consideration, figure out what the purpose of the rifle is for when you're picking your muzzle device. So I certainly hope that answers the question. I'm a huge Dead Air guy. That's the answer to the question. My muzzle device, my go-to muzzle device is both flash hiders and brakes are going to be dead air. If you do run a suppressor, it's not a bad, especially if the suppressor is not going to come off the gun very often, it's a really good idea to run a brake. Just because it gives you an additional baffle, or a so-called sacrificial baffle. And the dead air, they obviously make one. In fact, it ships with 308 brake if you buy like the Sandman S, and you can get the 556 as well, or you can, you know, however you want to do it. Any other questions? If you guys want me to get more specific into varied types of muzzle devices, or if there's something you'd like to see me talk about, or if there's a question you have, drop it in the comment section below. I'm Eric Allen with Sage Dynamics. Train accordingly.